Tapers Chapter 15. Can I have Tapers Chapter 15, please? I knew the world was nuts by now. This wouldn't have happened otherwise. What exactly would have happened otherwise? Well, there are a couple of obvious things. One, I wouldn't have been sitting in the driver's seat of my car moving towards some destination that may or may not have existed. That's a given. Two, I wouldn't have been given directions in the first place. That's definitely something that wouldn't have happened in the normal world. In fact, if this world were indeed normal, if it were indeed predictable, that person wouldn't have even made his way into my life at all. Another given. And three, my daughter would probably have been sitting safely and peacefully inside of her own home instead of in some unknown place somewhere on this planet, or not on this planet. Not so much a given, more like a guess, a hopeful guess. Of course, while not everybody would be willing to believe something that a man dressed in metal told him, it seems plausible that Kara's location was not a mystery after all. At least not anymore. Not that he directly said anything like that. In reality, the last thing that Hill had told me before shaking my head and leaving was, "Your life needs fixing. A lot of fixing." This was something I knew already. His words were comforting. However, his small note, the one that lay directly on top of my head, that I found there upon waking up in the morning, was even more comforting in a way. I was so skeptical, though. On the top of this note were the words "fix" in rather ugly handwriting. Below that were the directions. I was a little optimistic about this, needless to say. While Hill had clearly promised me something, I didn't feel like trusting him completely. However, this sounded like a very good time to get my hopes up, for if I hadn't, maybe I would have simply killed myself. While that was high on my priority list, I didn't want to resort to it. Also, needless to say, I bought the camera. It sat in the back seat of the car, waiting. I was eager to use it. Not quite as needless to say, I brought the axe. It wasn't my intention to cause harm, but bringing that axe felt like the right thing to do, whether or not it actually was. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a hero, a super one even. That didn't look like it was going to happen at any point in my lifetime, let alone during my childhood, and so I gave up on it. Still, I would dream about it every single night. Do you think a person like me, whose only dream was to be a hero, would cause harm to anybody? No, you don't. It was way too early in the morning to be thinking about these things. In fact, it was probably way too early to be doing anything. Maybe it would have been better if I waited until later in the day to leave my house. This probably explained why I was so optimistic I was going to truly wake up. It was almost a gift to be so tired, to feel so free of caution or fear or thought in general. Almost like nobody could stand in my way, not even myself. For the second time in the last few days, I was feeling like a real hero. Only this time it seemed even more possible to me that these feelings were legitimate. For this reason alone, I felt more than happy to prepare myself. In addition to bringing my taper, I also put on an official Tapers t-shirt, and some crazy glasses just for the hell of it. I knew where I was going, but I didn't know entirely what to expect. My first guess was a small house, possibly belonging to Hill himself. For some reason, I was visualizing a large ring of angry, violent cats surrounding it, all made out of rock. It provided incentive to keep going and find out for myself. What I wasn't expecting to find, and let me again emphasize the word wasn't, was a small school building. Not surrounded by a large ring of cats, but instead a large ring of nothing. The lack of cats didn't disappoint me, but the school definitely did. Regardless of this disappointment, I didn't turn around or anything stupid like that. The school looked quite intriguing to me. Like nobody had stepped inside of it for years, and it was basically in the middle of nowhere. Hill didn't seem like the kind of person who would waste my time. I got out of the car, the camera in my hands. The school was lovely. It looked old, very old actually, but you could just feel the playfulness, the innocence, just by standing next to it, even though none of that actually existed anymore. Just standing next to the school created an astounding feeling. It made me shiver. I held the camera up to capture this moment. Beautiful. My mood was lifted. After a few minutes of complete silence, reflecting on life, staring at nothing, I took my first steps towards the building. It pulled me. I began running. It was almost like only one direction existed, and taking into account that life was short and finite, I chose to dash forward in that direction and go as far as I could possibly go. Of course, the time it would take me to reach the front door of the building was finite as well, and so I held my arms out in preparation. I opened the door, bolted inside, and then closed it all in one swift motion. It all felt very natural to be doing this. Though as soon as I closed the door, the feeling went away. The school's interior was nowhere near as magical. The room was quite large, though it was fairly empty. There were only 3 doors, as far as I can tell at least. I never looked at the ceiling or anything, though I admit it would have been rather odd to find a door on the ceiling, one of which must have led to the classrooms. The others were probably stupid and boring, like offices and probably a library or something. Schools in general aren't very interesting. This one, though, looked rather amazing from the outside. I still didn't quite understand why there was such a difference there. "Hey," I called. My voice echoed around the room. "Are you there? Answer!" I knew Hill was waiting for me. He was always waiting for me. There was no longer a point in my life where I could feel safe from him. And yet, I received no response. Nothing happened. "Hey," I repeated. "Please come out." I was tapping my foot on the floor impatiently. "I'm here," I said. "I would like to negotiate with you." Nothing. This was a very irritating moment for me, partly because I didn't feel in the mood to go around exploring a creepy old building, and also partly because I was beginning to get a horrible headache. No, really, it was a bad headache. I trudged over to the door in front of me, dreading every step, and opened it. A hallway. How fun. At the end was yet another door, though considerably darker. It gave me a bitter look, that door, almost like it didn't appreciate my presence. What an odd thought. It was because of this that I arrived at the conclusion to try that door first. "I know you can hear me," I said, walking down the hallway. "You're looking at me right now, grinning, laughing." I could almost hear him laughing, mocking me. The laugh sounded mechanical, like some sort of machine pounding away at nothing. It was like a washing machine, actually, a gigantic and complex one. I could actually hear the sound quite well. It was getting louder by the second. In fact, it was shaking the entire building at this point. I could hardly keep my balance. I reached out for the doorknob, though not before tripping and hitting my head on it, making my headache even worse. As I opened the door, ready to pounce inside, I realized that it was actually a door to the basement. If I had gone through with that action and jumped inside, I would have surely fallen and broken several bones. That wouldn't have felt very good. Interestingly, I didn't really have to open the door very wide before it flew open all by itself, and at the moment the sound got even more intense. My taper was ready. I could tell that he enjoyed this. He wanted so badly to finally catch Hill on film and show him to the world. He wanted to be exposed once and for all, to lose everything. Don't tell anybody, but I kind of wanted those things as well. Hill himself didn't know this. He was falling straight into my trap. As soon as I finished negotiating with him and retrieving what I came for, I would unleash my plan. I couldn't help but laugh a little. Hill was going to bow down to me before the day ended. I didn't actually plan this plan beforehand. I didn't even know about it until just a few seconds before entering the basement and walking down the stairs. Usually I would tend to think of my ideas on the spot. That didn't detract from the quality of these ideas in the least. In fact, it made them better. I was overwhelmed with pride at that point, and with my stylish glasses, I felt even better. The lights in the basement were already on. This was a clear sign that Hill was around waiting for me. This didn't scare me. I was powerful, strong, and ready. Nothing could have stopped me, not even a man with a solid rock tie. "Come out wherever you are," I shouted proudly. "It is time for us to talk." Nobody responded to me. I stomped my foot on the floor as hard as I could. "I can sense you. You're close." I couldn't actually sense anybody, but it sounded like a pretty neat thing for a superhero to say. I thought that maybe it would scare Hill a bit, knowing that I could feel his presence. My guess was that the loud machine-like sound was covering up my beautiful voice. Impossible, you might say, but I was competing against something louder than you could ever imagine. It didn't bother me in the least. However, among all of those obnoxiously loud washing machine noises was a different sound, and I could hear it quite clearly. I looked at the wall in back of me where the noises seemed to be coming from. It was a harmless little closet in which I could hear what sounded like a constant pounding against the door, almost as if opening it would unleash something deadly. This amused me. It was firmly planted into my mind at this point that Hill was a silly, silly man. "Is this where you keep your cat?" cats? I asked, pointing toward the closet. I knew he was watching me, and so I had no trouble making gestures like that. You're funny. Seriously, this is just hilarious. Do you think that those are going to hurt me? I was used to getting no reply at this point. Honestly, pathetic, I continued. Here, just to humor you, I'm going to open up this closet and see what happens. Surely enough, I did just that. And I really was expecting 5 or so cats to pounce at me. For that short moment, I felt almost invincible. A few little cats didn't scare me at all, even if they were going to eat me alive or something, which still felt unlikely. It was a little relieving to realize that behind that closet door lied nothing dangerous, but that relief was nearly ruined by the terror of seeing my daughter nearly collapse onto the floor the second I opened the door. I didn't expect that to happen, though I knew that she was somewhere in the school. Hill had promised to me that she would be there, but I was really expecting to see some cats. This, however, was much more fun than I had originally imagined. A great opportunity lied ahead of me. I guess this is where we're going to see if that theory about him being Marvin or not is true. Unless it might just be undebatable true, but you know. Ah, you! What? She responded, looking up. Her eyes were half closed. I'm here to save you, little girl, I said. Get up, we're leaving. Leaving? I stood up straight and called out to Hill in my strongest voice. You hear that? I said. I'm taking the girl. You stand there and watch. If we aren't going to negotiate, no skin off my bones, man. The building continued to shake. What's going on? Said Kara, trying to stand up. She still couldn't open her eyes. That, that the fact that she can't open her eyes probably suggests that, we're not getting that. It might be foreshadowing or, just like plot device to not reveal that immediately. I don't know. Like, I guess it wouldn't be impossible that Tapers guy is Marvin, but, like, I don't want to believe it, We'll see. But, the building continued to shake. What was going on? Said Kara, trying to stand up. She still couldn't open her eyes. I told you, I'm saving you, I said, grabbing onto her hand. You can call me Taper Man, by the way, because that's who I am. Now, we should go. I pulled her up and ran to the stairs. She responded by pulling in the opposite direction. No, she said. No? I want something, she said, continuing to pull back. I'll get you whatever we want afterwards. We need to leave now. Things weren't sounding very good. The noise was beginning to morph into something entirely different. Now it sounded more like 5,000 pennies dropping simultaneously every second onto a spinning propeller. He's building something with it, she said as I let go of her hand. She pointed towards the room in which the machine was being created. Oh, I said, curious. He's in there, then. Yes. I began laughing uncontrollably. Hiding, I said. The laughter wouldn't stop. I could no longer contain myself. This was just too great. I love this, and he called me pathetic. He's very busy. Busy being a pussy. Oh my god. Here, keep standing in the spot. What do you want me to get for you? It's a round, flat thing, this big, she said, holding out her arms. It's really heavy. This is great. No, this is amazing. I seriously didn't think the day would come that I would win against my enemies this easily, and to the point that they would cower in fear of me. Maybe it was just my glasses and shirt, but I felt very happy and powerful that day. And my camera, of course, was happy as well. This felt like a winner already. I guess I don't need to mention that as I opened the door to once and for all drive Hill out of my life. I had my Taper completely ready to film every second of it. What I ended up capturing in the end was almost as good. In fact, it was probably better in the long run. But I will tell you one thing that cannot be denied. It's not what I intended for at all. When Kerr told me he's building something, what I had assumed was that Hill was actually preparing his grave. It sounded like a fun thought that I would be so scared of me as to do such a thing. But these were just silly fantasies of mine. In reality, Hill wasn't actually preparing his grave. What a stupid idea. It made sense, really. That weird noise seemed not to register for the last several minutes I stood in the basement, but it was indeed still making its dreadful noise. Something had to be causing it. The truth is that, when I walked into that room, I saw a gigantic, complicated machine. Standing next to it was a man, but that man was certainly not Hill. He looked at me for a moment, his eyes bursting with surprise. Nothing happened for several minutes. Marvin wasn't sure what to think, but he knew what he was looking at, and wished so much for it not to be true. He saw me. He saw my camera. He recognized both, and to him, I was the hungriest man alive. And yet, none of this really deconfirms the fact that they're the same person, you know? Because, like, it definitely feels like it. I definitely want to think that they're separate people, but, like, I'm trying to think of it from, like, critical lens. Because, like, even if in my mind it's not confirmed as a thing, I'm trying to think of, like, the evidence for it, you know? And, like, even though there's all these scenes of them being in the same space and shit, like, it could definitely just be, like, delusions from Taper Man. Like, the same person. Taper Man is just, like, having delusions of everywhere Marvin's appearing. Because, like, it's never factoring in anyone else's opinion. No one was around for, like, I don't know, okay? We'll see. Next time, we're doing chapter 16, I think. Right. Yeah, chapter 16. Oh boy.